Hey everyone, welcome to this session by Simplilearn. In this video, we will learn about UiPath Studio in depth and understand its working with a demo. This tutorial will help you understand the following concepts. You will learn what is UiPath and the various advantages of UiPath. Then, you will look at the different products offered by UiPath and understand the UiPath interface. After that, you will see the companies using UiPath and look at a demo to automate a task using UiPath Studio. So without further ado, let's begin. So what is UiPath? Now RPA is a technology with which human tasks can be automated. To facilitate this, a tool is required. UiPath is one such tool among others that are used to create bots with the help of visual processes and diagrams. It provides complete end-to-end automation, calling it hyperautomation. UiPath was founded by Daniel Dines and Marius Turka in 2005. UiPath is specially used for Windows process automation. It automates repetitive tasks. And lastly, UiPath offers drag and drop functionalities to make it easy to use. Now since there are so many other tools like Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere in the market, what makes UiPath stand out? So let's look at the advantages of UiPath. First, UiPath has an activity library. This library has several built-in activities and features like display message, input box, and so on. This improves the customer experience. We will deal with these activities in the demo later. Next up is security. RPA deals with a variety of information like credit card numbers, financial information, and passwords. UiPath offers extensive security since all the information can be encrypted and stored on a centralized server. Up next, we have recorders. So UiPath uses a micro recorder to record the user actions such as mouse clicks and keystrokes. Once the actions are recorded, they can be emulated using emulators for quick automation. Third-party integration. UiPath can be integrated with third-party plugins like IBM Watson and Google plugins. Then we have powerful debugging. UiPath Studio comes with a debug component that helps find and locate problems easily in complex workflows. This is useful for viewing the execution of each activity to verify what data it gets and if there are errors in producing outputs. Now, let's understand the various UiPath products. First up is UiPath Studio. This is the platform to create the bots. This product consists of all the necessary drag and drop activities and a robust UI to help develop bots of your choice. Now, the UiPath Studio consists of the GUI dashboard. It offers a visual dashboard with activities like send email, display message, and so on. Then we have types of recorders. UiPath Studio offers various types of recorders to record actions on multiple platforms. Then we have logging and exception handling. It offers various options for debugging and exception handling such as debug, open logs, slow step, etc. And finally, we have reusable components. The user can create reusable components to publish them together as libraries. Next, we have the UiPath robots. All the automation tasks that created are run by UiPath robots. There are two types of robots: attended robots and unattended robots. Attended robots work with you to speed up service desk and help desk. It is used in activities where human involvement is the key. Unattended robots operate without human touch, maximizing cost and performance benefits for any variety of back office tasks. Lastly, we have the UiPath Orchestrator. The orchestrator is like a centralized entity where you can deploy, secure, manage all your automation tasks. Here are the steps involved. First, you create a bot. Now you create a project and publish it as a process for further use. Once a process is created, it is assigned to a specific robot to execute in an environment. This collectively constitutes a job. Now, let's move on to the architecture of UiPath. So on the top, you have the client layer consisting of UiPath Studio and the UiPath robot. Now, the UiPath robot has two parts. One is the UiPath agent service, which displays all the available jobs in the system tray, and the other one is the UiPath executor service, which is used to run the jobs in one Windows session. The server layer receives the robot once it is ready for execution. With the help of the orchestrator, you can run the project on different PCs. The orchestrator monitors the deploys, configures, queue management, and logging. Lastly, we have the persistent layer, which consists of the databases. It takes care of the queues and holds information about the robot configuration and their assigned processes. Now that we know what UiPath is, let's acquaint ourselves with its user interface and understand its components better. So this is what the typical interface looks like. First, we have the ribbon. It consists of three tabs: Home, Design, and Debug. Home is where you start a new project from predefined templates or open a project you recently worked on. By default, the projects are created in the location shown below. Next is the Design tab. Design tab adds sequences, flowcharts, and state machines to your project. It installs and manages activity packages. It builds interactions with UI elements and then publishes your work to Orchestrator. Finally is Debug. It debugs your workflow while using debugging tools to set up breakpoints, monitor the execution of activities step by step, and adjust the debugging speed. Next on the screen is Tools. So the Tools tab can be used for installing extensions from Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Java, Silverlight, Citrix, and Windows Remote Desktop, and is also used for launching the UI Explorer and Project Dependencies Mass Update tool. Then we have Settings. The Settings tab has options for changing the interface language, theme, setting global preferences, and managing activity feeds. So you have General Settings, then there is settings for design, locations, manage resources, and finally license and profile. Up next, you have Help. The Help tab directs you to product documentation, release notes, online resources, the community forum, and the RPA Academy. After that, you have the Recorder. The Recorder component in UiPath Studio allows the user to record UI mouse movements and keyboard activities to generate automation scripts. After that, you have Scraping. So, UiPath Studio supports two types of scraping. One is screen scraping and the next one is data scraping. So, screen scraping is programmatic collection of visual data, and data scraping is the extraction of structured data from an application. Then you have User Events. User Events records events such as mouse clicks and keystrokes. Then you have Variables. So variables hold different types of data. These variables can change over time. UiPath makes an easy provision to create and remove unused variables. On the bottom left, you have Project. So the Project panel enables you to view the components of the current project, add folders, open the file location, manage dependencies, and adjust project settings. Beside it, you have Activities panel. So the Activities panel shows available activities that can be added to the current workflow. Users can use the search box to find activities, navigate through them using navigation keys, and press. You also have the Snippets panel, which enables you to easily reuse automation. It includes by default multiple samples and snippets. To the bottom right, you have the Properties panel, which is contextual and enables you to view and change the properties of a selected activity. You also have the Outline panel, which displays the project hierarchy, all available variables and nodes. You can highlight activities in this panel by selecting them in the Designer panel. The Output panel enables you to display the output of the log message or write line activities, among other things. Exceptions for packages are also displayed in this panel. So now that we have understood the interface of UiPath, let's look at the companies using UiPath. So you have Accenture, Capgemini, Cognizant, Atos, and Deloitte, to name a few. Now, we'll do a demo to automate a task using UiPath Studio. So here is what we are going to do in the demo. We'll create an automated process to fetch data from a website, wherein the bot would extract data like the name of the person, the phone number, and the email ID. This data will store it in an Excel sheet and send it over an email. Now let's get started. Now to do this demo, we'll be using the fake name generator website to generate random data of people and store this data set in an Excel sheet. Now if I had to do this manually, I would first create an Excel sheet. So let me open an Excel workbook. I'll create a blank workbook. So this is where I'll put my data if I had to do it manually. So now let me take you to the fake name generator website. So I'll search for fakenamegenerator.com. So this is the website where you can generate fake names. Now, if I had to store this data in Excel, I would manually copy paste each and every detail and paste it onto the Excel sheet. So for that, first I had to create columns like name, then phone number, then email. After that, I had to come back to this and copy each of these fields. So name, if I had to take the phone number, so I would copy this, and similarly for the email address as well. For one record it is fine. What if you are asked to fetch 100 records or say 200 records? Then this method is not at all feasible. It is time consuming and inefficient. You need to find a way where you can automate this task of fetching records. UiPath is a solution for this. So let's see how we can automate this task using the UiPath Studio. So I'll click on Open Main Workflow. First, we need to direct UiPath to go to the fake name generator website. For that, we need the sequence activity. So let me search for sequence here. So under activities, I'll search for sequence and I'll drag it here. After that, I need to open the website in a web browser. So for that, let me search for another activity called Open Browser. So under activity, I look for Open Browser. So I'll drag it on the sequence itself. Now it is asking you to insert the URL of the website and it must be within double quotes. So I'll go to my website, copy paste the URL. I have to give this URL within double quotes, then I'll paste it. Now we need to select the name of the browser where you want to open this website. So under input and browser type, I'll choose Chrome. Now let me go ahead and run this file. So under debug, I have run file. I'll click on it. So as you can see, the website is automatically opened in a new window on Chrome. I'll close this. The next step in the process is to tell the program how many records we want to fetch from the website. For this, we will create an input dialog box. So under activities, I'll search for input. So here you get the input dialog box. I'll drag and drop it on the top. Now it is asking us to give the details. So I'll put it within double quotes, say enter the details of customers or say people. and then here I'll give enter the number of records you want to fetch. Now I have to store this information in a variable. So under variables, I'll create a variable and name it as total, is the total number of records I want to fetch. Similarly, under output result, I'll give the same variable name as total. Now we need to fetch the details a number of times repeatedly, say for 10 times or 20 times or 50 times. To do this operation, I'll be using a do-while loop. So to use a do-while loop, I'll first search for do-while and I'll drop it to the do section of the sequence. As you can see, do-while has two components. One is the body and the other one is condition. The body has the things that you want the program to do. The condition is where you evaluate certain conditions every time when the program has to do a task. So for every step or iteration, it will check if the condition is true or not and go inside the body of the loop. Now for doing this, we need to assign a variable. So let's name the variable as val, and I'll change the variable type to integer, and I'll make the scope to sequence. I'll also assign a default value of 0. Now we'll compare this val to the variable total. So the condition I'll give is check if val is less than total. So under condition, I'll give val less than total. So every time the value of val is less than the total, it will keep fetching the records from the website. You can see it has thrown some error. Now this is because our total variable is of type string while the val variable is of type integer. So you can't compare an integer with a string variable. So that would be absurd. We need to convert the total variable to an integer using the cint function. So here itself I'll write cint, which is convert this total variable to integer. You can see the error is gone. The next thing I want to do is, if the value of the val variable is less than total, I'll increment the value of val to 1. So to do that, I'll use an activity called assign. So I'll check for assign and I'll drag it onto the body. So here I'll give val equals to val plus 1. This will make sure the value of val increases by 1 every time there is a new record inserted. It will continue until the value of val no longer matches the total. So the next job is to extract information from the website. To do this, we will use the get full text activity. So I'll search for get full text here and I'll drag it right below the assign activity. Now you need to select the information which you want. So first I want to get the name. I'll click on the indicate element inside browser and then select the name of the person. So I'll click on this and I click on the name. There you go. Now we need to store this name in a variable. So I'll create a variable. So under variable, I'll create a variable called name, and in the output also I'll give the same variable name. Next, I want to fetch the phone number of the person. So I'll again select get full text and I'll drag it here. I'll click on indicate element inside browser. So I'll scroll down and I'll select the phone number of the person. So we have selected the phone number. Similarly, I'll store this phone number in a variable. So I'll create a variable called phone underscore number, and the output text box also will give the same variable as phone underscore number. After that, I want to get the email address of the person. So I'll continue with the same drill. I'll select the activity once again, which is get full text, and I'll drag it right here. I'll click on indicate element inside browser, and now we'll select the email address, which is this one. Similarly, I'll store the email address in a variable called email underscore ID, and in the output also we'll give the same variable name, which is email underscore ID. Now we need to store the names, phone numbers and email IDs into an Excel sheet. For that, we need to create a data table. So I'll search for data table under activities. Let me go ahead and do that. So I'll choose build data table and drag it right below the input dialog box. Now this table has to be assigned to a variable. So let me do that. Let me give a variable name as fetch underscore data underscore table. Similarly, in the output also we'll give the same variable name, which is fetch underscore data underscore table. One thing I need to tell you here is we'll change the variable type. So I'll select browse for types and look for data table, which is system.data. I'll drill down and search for data table, which is this one. Click OK. We need to assign the column names to this data table. So let me now do that. I'll uncheck all this and select the columns. So we'll give the first column name as name itself. Click on OK. Select one more column, give it as phone number. Click OK, and then we need the email address. I'll hit OK. So we are done. So first the data table is created, and then we'll write this data to an Excel file. After that, we need to create rows for the data table. For that, I will search for row. Under activities, I'll search for row and I'll select add row. I'll select add data row. I'll place it right below where we have created all the variables. Now I want to add a row for the name, phone number and email address. So under input, I'll select array row. I'll expand this, and within curly braces, I'll give my variable names. So those would be name, give a comma, and then phone underscore number, comma, email underscore ID. Click OK. I made a mistake. It should be within curly braces. OK. Now to tell the table to which it should write the rows to, we need to assign under the data table name. So under data table, I'll give fetch underscore data underscore table. For every iteration, a record will be added to the table. Then we need to refresh the page to extract the next set of information. So for that, I will add another activity called click and drop it right below the add data row. So under activities, I'll search for click and I'll select mouse click and I'll drop it right below this one. Now we need to indicate where do we want to click from the browser. So click on this, go on top and select generate. So we want to click on generate. Next, I will write the data to a CSV file. So I'll search for write CSV under activities. And I'll drop it towards the end of the sequence right here. Now you need to give the location where you want to place this file on your system and give the source from where it will take the information. So let's give the location where you want to place this file. I'll place it on my desktop itself. I'll name this as fetch, save it, and for the source I'll give fetch underscore data underscore table. We are all set. Now let's run it. So under debug file, I'll select run file. I'll enter the number of records. So let me fetch 10 records. Click on OK. Now this might take some time. I believe it has run successfully now. Let me check for my CSV file. That should ideally be on my desktop. There you go. So we have the CSV file. Let me open it. You can see it has extracted 10 rows of data and 3 columns, namely name of the person, the phone number, and the email address. So we are done with the first task of automatically generating data from a website. The next task is to send this file over email. Now to send an email, you need the SMTP activity. So under activities, I'll search for SMTP. I'll drag it right below here. Now we need to configure this. I'll be actually sending this email from someone else's email ID to my email ID. So under to, I'll give my email address, which is within quotes, I'll type abhijit.biswal@simplylearn.net. I'll give a subject as automatic data extraction. Under body, I'll give something like hi, please find attached. Now we have to attach the file. We have to give the location of the file here. So let me go to properties and I'll select this, cancel. Paste this here, followed by the file name, which is fetch.csv. I'll click on OK. After that, I have to give the host port number, which is 465, and the server name, which is smtp.gmail.com. Under logon, I'll give the sender's email ID, I have to give the password as well. Under the receiver, it's my email ID, which is abhijit.biswal@simplylearn.net. For the sender, I'll give the email ID as chinmay.deshpande@simplylearn.net, and I'll give a dummy name, it's Chinmay. So we are almost done. Let me now go to debug file and run this. It is asking to enter the number of records. I'll give 5. Click on OK. This will take some time, so let's just wait. So we have successfully run our program. Now let me check my inbox if I have got any mail from Chinmay. So there you go. I have got this email, and below you can see the fetch.csv file attached, and it has 5 rows. And with that, we have come to the end of this UiPath tutorial. I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching the video, and stay tuned for more from Simplylearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplylearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.